answer. You asked me a question, you're not interested in the answer.
Let me ask you, this educated man, stand here. Can you show me as a Muslim one abolition movement from Islam?
One, just one.
Show me one abolition movement from Islam.
One.
Right now, give me one. Give me one abolition movement from Islam.
There is no slavery in Islam.
He doesn't even know what the word means. You don't even know what the word means.
He doesn't even know what it means.
Has Islam ever abolished slavery?
There is no slavery.
Never.
Has there ever been an abolition movement in Islam?
Not one.
Let me ask you, Sarah. In 1400 years, has there ever been an abolition of slavery in Islam?
No.
Can I add something? Given my doctoral dissertation was on slavery, so I've thought about this an awful lot. There's a few points here that are important. First of all, Muslims were part of the emancipation movement in the 19th century. This isn't something that was introduced only by Western human rights people, and Muslims grudgingly accepted it. There were Muslims who were very actively involved in bringing about a worldwide abolishment of slavery. There were Muslims who were very actively involved in bringing about a worldwide abolishment of slavery. There were reactionaries. And as there always are to positive developments, when some people want to take the values that the Quran and the Sunnah embody and bring them to a further perfection in society, there were Muslims who were reactionary and said, oh no, slavery's always been part of Muslim society and it should remain that way. We have to understand our own history. So there were some reactionary people, but there were also Muslims who were involved and said, no, this is perfectly in keeping with the spirit and the momentum of the Quran and the Sunnah.
No abolition movements?
None whatsoever. We don't know of one Muslim that tried to abolish slavery. Not one. And we're still waiting for a Muslim to give us one name of one Muslim that abolished slavery. We even asked this gentleman.
In those days?
He didn't even know what the word meant.
No abolition movements?
None whatsoever. We don't know of one Muslim that tried to abolish slavery. Not one. And we're still waiting for a Muslim to give us one name of one Muslim that abolished slavery. We even asked this gentleman.
In those days?
He didn't even know what the word meant.
This is a question that a lot of times Muslims get asked by non-Muslims. Why is it that your religion hasn't come and prohibited slavery? You guys talk about the emancipation of women, you guys talk about human rights and values, and Islam did this and that. Why didn't it come and stop slavery and just abolish it? I think the response is quite simple. We tend to overcomplicate that which is simple. The response is that Islam provided the mechanisms and allowed for the complete abolishment of slavery, but Islam came down at a time and place where slavery was all over the world, and it could not revolutionize this particular issue. Every society on the face of the earth at that time had slaves. When Islam came, it came and it regulated slavery. And the first thing that it did, it prohibited the capture of an innocent person and making him a slave. The second thing it did, it gave a number of incentives to free slaves. One of the greatest acts of worship is to free a slave. The third thing that it did is that it provided a number of expiations. If you've done a penalty, if you've promised God you're going to do something, then you didn't do it, then one of the ways that you get rid of that, one of your ways to absolve yourself of the sin is to free a slave. So So it restricted how slaves can, and of course the fourth one I forgot, it basically humanized the treatment of slaves. There's only one way to get slaves in classical Islamic fiqh, that is prisoners of war who cannot be freed or ransomed. Instead of executing them, instead of doing anything harmful to them, the only option that was humane at the time was to incorporate them into society and allow them to be slaves, and then give them 1,000,001 incentives to free those slaves. The main point here is quite simple. Islam did not come making slavery an integral part of the religion. We can be perfectly good Muslims without having any slaves. You can have an ideal, utopic Islamic state and not have slaves. So the Islamic Sharia provides the mechanisms, it allows for the means for the abolishment of slavery, and we don't for example, I've been asked this question, if you had an ideal Islamic state, what would you do with slavery? I'd say nothing, we leave status quo. There's no need to bring this issue back. Allah Azza wa Jal did not make it encouraged, did not make it obligatory to keep slaves. Rather, the Sharia provided guidelines that are optional when there are slaves. Now there are no slaves, so really there is no need to resurrect this issue, and we can, in all honesty, state that our religion does not encourage, does not even consider it mustahab, does not have any issues in law which require the existence of slaves. Therefore, now that slavery has been abolished, alhamdulillah, we thank Allah Azza wa Jal that we will conform with these human rights developments and have no issues saying that there is no need to resurrect age-old issues in Islamic law.